So it's kind of hard to believe, but I've already had my Nintendo Switch 2 for an entire month. And with all of that time, and I've been really trying to dedicate as much of my time to playing this as I can. If I played a game at all, I played it on this system. And I've got some thoughts, and I decided that I wanted this to be different from most of the reviews that you guys are probably going to see, because I know this weekend everybody's going to be talking about what it's like having a Switch 2 1 month in. I know that that's going to happen. I've actually already seen some of the thumbnails pop up. But I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a regular consumer kind of viewpoint. And what I mean by that is most of the reviews you see are probably going to be talking about all the spec bumps and the games that are available on the Switch 2 right now, all of them. And I'm going to be honest with you, I just don't got it like that. I haven't been able to afford most of these games that are so expensive for a console that was also $450. I did get the Mario bundle, so mine was $500, and I just can't do that. And I think most people are in a boat like me. So what would be your situation, if you are like me, is that you got a Nintendo Switch 2, and you really get to pick one new game for it. And most of you are probably going to choose Mario Kart because that's just the best deal. If you were able to get the bundle with this game, it saves you $30. So that's the best deal. Most of you are probably getting Mario Kart, and that's my story. I didn't pick up Cyberpunk. I didn't pick up Split Fiction on the Switch 2. I've played Split Fiction. It's great. I played it on Steam when it came out. I am approaching this 1 month in like I think most of you would, which is a brand new Mario Kart, and then my backlog of Switch 1 games that I carried over, many of which got Switch 2 upgrades like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, even Pokemon. Spoiler, that may have fixed that game. But there's also plenty of games on the Switch 1 that didn't get any kind of official Switch 2 edition. I've played some of those to try to see, well, do we see any improvements? And for the most part, yes. And that's what I want to talk about today. So first and foremost, the main thing is this dude is really comfortable almost. It's really comfortable because all of the buttons and the joysticks, everything are so much bigger than they were on the previous Switch 1. Unfortunately, bigger and more comfortable still doesn't necessarily equal comfortable. A big problem for me that I've had playing this Switch in handheld, which is a shame because I really like handheld gaming, is that it's just uncomfortable to play. I think it has to do mostly with the fact that the thing is so thin. When I'm holding it, especially playing Mario Kart and you're holding it helps a little bit if you do auto accelerate. It's pressing right into the bottom portion of my hands. And when that happens, especially in my right hand, I notice that it just goes numb. I just start to literally get tingles up through my pinky finger and my hand goes numb holding this thing. Something I have been able to do is kick the kickstand out just slightly and rest my ring finger underneath the kickstand and let that hold the weight. And that has helped significantly for the comfort level of this. But unfortunately, I don't have a grip. And that's something that I needed with the original Switch to make it comfortable. I chose, not a sponsor, but I chose to go with the Satisfy grip. It was fantastic, it was super ergonomic, and it corrected another problem that I had with the Switch 1, which is the Joy-Con wiggle. Over time, those rails would just weaken, and when that happened, there was a pretty good bit of give when you're holding the Switch by the Joy-Cons, and that always bothered me. But the Satisfy grip went across the entire back of the console and eliminated that wiggle. I am happy to say that your mileage may vary. Different people are saying different things, but I feel significantly less wiggle in my Switch 2, unless I am only holding it by the Joy-Con like that. And that's actually kind of by design. Nintendo intended for these things to break off before they break, if that makes sense, so that it can protect that inner connector, which has a good bit of give itself by design so that it doesn't break. So theoretically, you can really press in on the side of this thing and make these joysticks break off, but it takes a good bit of force still. The best way to remove them is just to use the button. Just hit it, comes right out. And honestly, this never gets old. It is incredibly satisfying how futuristic and nice the magnetic component feels versus the old rail component. So that is, when it comes to hardware in the hand, that is my my biggest gripe. Unfortunately, because Nintendo didn't really give out any of these Switch units to anyone with enough time for them to make products, third parties are rushing to try to get a good product. I chose Satisfy again, and I don't expect to get my grip for the Switch 2 until middle to late September. That sucks. So I've been playing a lot because of that in docked mode. And that brings me to my next, not frustration, but just disappointment with the system, because I was expecting 4K 60, 1080p, 120 in the handheld. The screen supports 120, but let's be real, right now, no games are hitting that as far as I know, except for one mini game in Nintendo Switch Welcome Tour. That kind of stinks. Even though like I expect that to get better, the initial hype that I had over the spec bump just wasn't at all what I wanted it to be. Now, that's not to say that it still isn't good. When it comes to playing original Switch games on the Switch 2, I think it's the best way to play them. Two games in particular stand out to me that do not have advertised Switch 2 enhancements. Those games are Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity and Minecraft. Now, Hyrule Warriors still looks bad. That game graphically almost looks like it belongs on a 3DS. Whether you play it on the Switch 1 or the Switch 2, there's just no smoothness to the edges of Link. He's jagged. He is really uninteresting, lack of color. It looks bad. It looks just really low resolution. That's the best way I know to describe it. But I will give it this. When I played that game on my Switch 1, the frames would drop sometimes into the single digits. It ran really poorly, especially if you were playing co-op. I have not been able to get it to drop frames on the Switch 2. It still looks graphically rough, but it is completely solid. I don't know if it's 30 or 60, but it is a solid frame rate, and that's very nice. Minecraft is another great example. Minecraft doesn't have an advertised Switch 2 version, so that means that a lot of the gripes and problems from the Switch 1 will carry over, like the way that Minecraft is designed to target 30 frames per second on the Switch 1, and it only allows a handful, I think 30 chunks at a time of render distance. Those things still carry over to the Switch 2, but it is actually holding that 30 FPS, and everything is not popping in. Everything is rendering in quickly, especially in the late game. Minecraft on Switch is fine when you first start, but the more things that you have in your house or at your village or whatever you're developing, the more processes that the game has to run, the slower and more laggy that game would get. And it seems that the Switch 2 really has completely solved that issue. Now, is it as good as playing Minecraft on an Xbox Series X or a PlayStation, or especially a PC? No, but for the form factor and the cost, it is very, very nice. And honestly, if it does get a Switch 2 Edition release, it probably will fix those problems, and it will be a great way to play Minecraft on the go. Switch 2 Edition games see even greater improvements, like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Those games not only are running at stable 60 frames, but in docked, we're actually seeing Link in 4K and 180p, I think, in handheld, 60 frames. Very clean, very smooth. Did it improve my ability to finally finish the Master Sword trials on Breath of the Wild? No, it did not. But I will say it felt better to play. So while I still have not completed that, and I maybe am not a real gamer, it felt significantly better in the hand. I played it primarily docked for the same reason as Mario Kart. It's just uncomfortable to hold this thing for long sessions in handheld mode. But when you have an actual Pro controller, it's very comfortable. Didn't win, but I could. It's hard to even describe it without just playing it, but I did feel a noticeable difference, and I think that comes from the frame rates. Just having a higher frame rate makes a big difference when you're timing parries and when you're trying to line up headshots when you're shooting your arrow. It's fantastic. Thing that I really, really like about the Switch 2 is that it has near full reverse compatibility with Switch 1 peripherals. What I mean by that is these two Joy-Cons that are on my Switch 1 completely work with the Switch 2. The only feature you miss is that C button. So chat, whatever, what you're gonna do. The same can be said about the Pro controller. It has complete, well, let's put an asterisk there, complete reverse compatibility minus the C button, and that's what I've chosen to do. Instead of spending all that money on a new Pro controller, I'm using my previous Pro controller. A real big gripe that I have about that, since I've been playing in docked mode so much, is that you cannot wake the system from sleep with a Switch 1 controller. It doesn't matter if it's a Pro controller, it doesn't matter if it's a Joy-Con 1. If you press that home button to wake the console, it won't wake up. The only way to wake it with a controller that I have found through my testing is to use an actual Switch 2 Joy-Con or the Switch 2 Pro controller, which I chose not to buy because, like I said, I'm a consumer like you guys. I don't have it like that. Also, since I don't have it like that, I didn't buy that camera. But luckily, almost any, say like Logitech webcam that you have that can plug into that USB-C port will work. The lower the resolution of the camera, the better. I actually was able to get it to work with my DSLR camera through a capture card, but the Switch tries to crunch the bitrate down so bad that I actually found that even though I was giving it technically a higher resolution, a higher fidelity image, it looked worse than my little Logitech 720p camera. So if you have that, USB-C adapter, or just plug it into the side of the dock if it's a USB-A, and you are off to the races. There's no need to buy that $50 camera. Don't worry about that. And it's pretty cool. I haven't played too many games with it. I mostly have used it in Mario Kart and for chat, and it is cool to see your face pop up next to your cart whenever you're passing someone in the game. That's neat. I'll take it. It's not necessary, but it's neat, especially since you can use older hardware. I have a little list here. I want to make sure I don't forget anything. Let's see. It fixed Pokemon. So the Switch 2 editions, I did want to talk about that. I gave up on Pokemon to the point that I have decided not to buy Pokemon Legends ZA at launch, but I did decide to go back and try to play Pokemon Violet on the Switch 2, and I've been doing that a little bit lately. I'm still not very far in that game, but I am very happy to be able to say that the Switch 2 edition of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet seemed to have fixed all of the problems. A big problem that I had when I was playing the game originally is that I would literally fall through, like when I would go into a battle, either I or my Pokemon would fall through the ground and just, they would be gone. I've had my head get too big. The body was fine, but the head blew up really big. I've had clipping and weird things happen with the map. And then obviously frame rate dips like crazy. None of that has happened on the Switch 2. So if you've been waiting to play Pokemon, this is the way to do it. Other third-party controllers that worked on Switch 1 also work on the Switch 2 with an asterisk. The 8BitDo controllers mostly worked. 8BitDo is aware of this, and they've been updating firmware. And I'm very happy to say that they have finally updated the firmware for their G-Bros adapter. If you're not familiar with the G-Bros adapter, what it does is it allows you to connect an original GameCube controller to your Switch 1 and now to your Switch 2. Unfortunately, the Switch sees it as a Pro controller rather than a GameCube controller. That hasn't given me too many issues, but it will expect you to have buttons that you don't have because of that. Like, for example, the minus button. You just don't have an option for that. Home and screenshot are on the actual adapter itself, so it does kind of build that in for you. And I'm really happy to see that that finally works and I can use it because the Nintendo Switch 2 has a new Nintendo Switch Online app, and that is Nintendo Switch Online GameCube. It only launched with 3 games. I played a little bit of Wind Waker. It's okay. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate in the comments for that, but it's fine. I think I've just been so busy trying to do other things and like grab all this content that I'm not ready for a Zelda game right now because Zelda games demand a lot of your attention. So once I get more of these videos behind me, maybe I'll give it another shot. Soul Calibur is great, and so is F-Zero. Something I really like about both of those games is that they originally offered a 16:9 aspect ratio on the GameCube that almost no one used back then. That option carries over to the Switch 2. So you can actually go into your settings, choose 16:9 or I think wide mode on I think it's F-Zero calls it widescreen mode, and it will completely fill up the screen on the Switch 2, and that's really nice. And then just the other day, we got Super Mario Strikers. It also supports 16:9 resolution, which is fantastic, and with a GameCube controller, it is So much fun to play. I've never played Mario Strikers before this. I know the one that came out on the Switch was not all that loved by many people, but boy, it's pretty good. I haven't had a chance to play it online yet, and I'm hopeful, even though Nintendo Switch Online is a little funky. I know playing online with a Switch 1 and a Switch 2 is still just as buggy as it's always been, but maybe Switch 2 to Switch 2 is better. I got to try that out. I'm going to maybe try to do that on stream over on Twitch sometime soon and play that. And I'm still going to be playing a lot of Switch 2 on stream this month. If you want to check that out, twitch.tv/WubbyPumpkin. I would love to have you there. We're going to be playing a lot of Donkey Kong Bonanza, the new Mario Odyssey. And I'm really looking forward to that when it comes out. And now just a little parting thought I have for you guys. And that is, should you buy one? And I have to say, honestly, right now, the answer is it depends. If you really care about Mario Kart, or if you really, really want to play Donkey Kong Bonanza, then maybe it's worth it for you to go ahead and get this system. Maybe it's even worth it for you to just wait a little bit and get it this holiday. Maybe there'll be a good bundle. But for most of us that are coming from the Switch 1, especially if you have other ways to play games, if you have an Xbox or a PlayStation or a Steam Deck or a PC, some way to play these third-party games like Cyberpunk or Split Fiction that launched on Switch 2, but are better and honestly cheaper on other platforms, then it's a lot harder to sink that $450 if you don't care that much about Mario Kart. You honestly probably can get a lot of mileage still out of your Switch 1 for just a little bit longer. You have to decide what's important to you. But if I didn't care about Mario Kart, and if I didn't need to buy this so that I could make content around it, then I think I could wait. I think I could wait on this system until the holiday season to see if there's a new bundle that's interesting, or maybe a different color SKU. That would be cool. Or I might even could wait until next year when we have enough games to really justify switching over. Because like I said, almost the entire library that I have played on Switch 2 is available to play. Even if it runs slightly worse, it is available to play on the original Switch 1. So if you have a Switch 1, you can probably rock with that for a little bit longer, unless you want Donkey Kong or Mario Kart World. So let me know what you guys think. Are you getting one? Have you gotten one? If you did get one, do you agree with me? Or has it been like the best thing since sliced bread? I want to know. And if you haven't gotten one yet, let me know what you're thinking. Are you going to wait? Did this video convince you to get one, or did it convince you to wait a little while? Has it convinced you to do something different? Maybe get a Steam Deck or an ROG Ally or the new Xbox Ally X that is coming out soon. I want to know. Please leave all that down in the comments. I do read the comments and I do respond to the comments. It's one of my favorite parts about YouTube is getting to interact with you guys. One of my favorite parts about content in general is getting to interact with you guys. So please let me know what you think. And hey, if this video was helpful or if you liked it, then hit that thumbs up button. If not, let me know that you didn't like it so that I have some feedback and know how to make better videos in the future. And come hang out with me on Twitch. I'm live over there on pretty much every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern until around 9 or 10 p.m. Eastern. It just depends. Twitch.tv/WubbyPumpkin. That's the best way to chat with me. You can also follow me on social media, X, Blue Sky, obviously YouTube, Facebook, at WubbyPumpkin on all of those. Would love to hang out with you there. And if you would do me one more favor, maybe share this video with a friend. Share this video with someone who is thinking about getting a Switch 2, or maybe is on the fence about keeping their Switch 1. Share it with them. Maybe this helps. I'd love for it to help them. Thank you guys so much for your patience as I'm trying to put these videos out. They are difficult with my new job and with my day-to-day life. It's difficult to find time to sit down and really work on and especially edit these videos. So I really appreciate your patience. And I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week. And I will see you whenever, but hopefully soon, the next video comes out. See ya.